Hi guys, it's Mishel, Deception Bytes, and I would love to be able to tell you that I'm bringing you more Q, but there is no Q. I mean, there is a Q, but there's been no post today. Today is May 23rd, and it's 10:49 Eastern Standard Time. So I wanted to take this opportunity while we are caught up with the post to bring you something else that I have found absolutely riveting, and it has been hard to pull myself away from it for a few days because there is so much information about this. And when Q says that it's been in front of us the whole time, well, it's been in front of us the whole time. Like, he's not kidding. He, she, they. So, and also I wanted to draw your attention to the fact that he keeps saying, we have it all. They have it all, including this. And we're going to be talking about the plane crash that took Loretta Fuddy's life. Well, the plane crash didn't take her life. She was murdered. But we're going to discuss that because this is fascinating stuff. And if you don't find this fascinating, it's because I've done something wrong in presenting it to you, because the information itself is riveting. So let's get started. I'm going to go out and I'm going to get some background information for us, because this happened in 2011. And I know if you're anything like me, the details of it have faded from your mind. And not only that, what was given in the news was absolutely false. And, that's no surprise, of course. But really, I think that they do know everything that happened here. And I believe that the murder was caught on video. I believe that after seeing the video, I absolutely believe that that's what's happening. And I think that, Obama has to be getting pretty nervous. He should have bought stocks in Depends. If I owned the company, honestly, I would change it to For Sure's, because it's a stupid name, Depends. But anyway, I'm not going to get onto that and get all sidetracked today. I'm really going to try to stay on topic and on track, because there's a lot of stuff to go over. All right, let's go out and get some information about this. Background information. Now, this website is called constitutionalreset.com. And I had never run across it before, but I am quite impressed with this woman. She writes well, and she researches very, very well. Now, I don't know if she looks into other things besides this or not, but she has certainly done a bang-up job on this. So I wanted to give a kudos to her. I'm not sure of her name. It was posted by Greg. Let me see at the bottom of it. Linda Jordan. So she's a researcher out of Seattle, Washington. So, and interestingly enough, in 2011, she ran the Social Security number Barack Obama used on his 2010 tax return through the government-run E-Verify system, and discovered that the SSN had been flagged with a special indicator code for fraud. It was not Obama's SSN, and since then, she has continued to work to expose Obama's use of forged identity documents, fake ID, he used to get on the ballot and into the White House. She is the owner of We the People TV at ObamaFakeID.com. I wanted to give kudos where kudos are due. I don't want to just steal someone's work without giving them the mention that they are due. So let's. We've got a lot of other things too, but this gives like an incredible background. You will remember that Loretta Fuddy was the person who released photocopies of Barack Obama's original long-form certificate of live birth. She did this at Obama's request and said that she hoped it would put an end to the numerous inquiries the Hawaii Department of Health had received to produce the document. Judith Corley, Obama's lawyer, says she flew to Hawaii to pick them up. Obama then posted the purported birth certificate to the White House website on April 27, 2011. It has since been proven to be an abject forgery. It was not a scan of a photocopy of an original document. It was a forged PDF file that never existed in paper form until someone pushed print. Interesting, isn't it? Just 1 second here. I'm sorry, you probably can hear me glugging my water, but it's hot in here. All right, Loretta Fuddy died after a plane crash on December 11th, 2013. Just a month and a half prior, she had been named, and now this is important, Just a month and a half prior, she had been named in 2 affidavits filed in U.S. District Court, Western District of Washington. The originator of the affidavits had asked that a grand jury be convened to investigate Obama's forged birth certificate and Fuddy's role in its production, if any. Now, that's interesting, isn't it? So I guess if Fuddy dies, then she doesn't have to testify, does she? And she doesn't have to reveal the money that was paid to her as a bribe to do this, to produce this forged document. So, I mean, you have to admit that her death was pretty convenient to Obama, right? I mean, for real. She doesn't have to answer any questions now. Fuddy and her deputy director, Keith Yamamoto, had traveled to the island of Molokai, I think that's how you say that, that day on a work-related trip. On their return flight, the small plane they were riding in was forced to make an emergency ocean landing fairly close to shore after suffering a complete engine failure. It was a very smooth landing, according to the video one person captured. All 9 passengers got their life jackets on and made it out of the plane calm as can be, including Loretta. In fact, there was almost not a sound as they exited into the approximately 70-degree water. Within minutes after the forced landing, a small plane flew ahead and survivors knew that help was on the way. Then, inexplicably, Loretta Fuddy suffered an equivocal death, a death of unknown origins. So here we've got this small commuter plane, and there's just a few people aboard. How many did it say that there were aboard? Forced to make it. Maybe it doesn't say. Or maybe I skipped over it and can't remember it now. But anyway, there's just a few passengers on board, and Loretta is there with her deputy director, Keith Yamamoto, and they had traveled to a small island which used to be a leper colony, and there's still actually a few lepers living out their life there. And she had gone as director of Department of Health. She had gone there to check on whatever, and she was returning back, very standard flight, because Hawaii isn't just one island. There's a bunch of islands, and there's little commuter planes that will hop from one island to the next. So that's what that was. And when it went down, supposed engine failure. However, someone had also said that the engine was running smoothly right up until the time that the plane ditched. So it really wasn't catastrophic engine failure that brought the plane down. I think that it had been planned. I think the pilot was in on it, and I think several, if not all, of the passengers were in on it. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, come on. Well, after you see the video and after I point out a few things, I think you'll say the same thing. I really do, because I know that you're reasonable people, and you have your eyes open and you're used to looking at things critically. So I'm quite sure that you'll come to the same conclusion. Maybe not, and that's fine. You can put your comments below, but we'll just see. Anyway, let's get into this information about the autopsy because it's very interesting. Loretta was the only fatality, and a high-profile one. Autopsies are to be performed as soon after death as possible, preferably within 24 hours. It was reported that Loretta Fuddy's autopsy took place 2 days after her death. Why wait 2 days? And if the autopsy was done on December 13th, 2013, why were the results kept private for a month? Details from the autopsy report were not revealed until January 13th, 2014. And by the way, the day that those were released, January 13th, Valerie Jarrett was there. Mishel Obama was there. There was someone else there. Gosh, I'm sorry. I can't remember the third person, but it was just a little bit strange to me. Maybe more coincidental than strange, but anyway, and scant details they were. The Maui Police Department, not the medical examiner's office, reported that Loretta Fuddy suffered a cardiac arrhythmia while floating in the water, and that Fuddy's irregular heartbeat was the result of stress brought on by the December 11th crash. Now, let's stop right here and just look at this critically, okay? Now, I know, some of you, the odds are that at least some of you work in the medical field, and you know that an autopsy is what is directly observable about the body, okay? When they do an autopsy on a body, they write down what is directly observable. They take the organs, they'll weigh them, they'll, whatever. They'll run tests or whatever, but it's what is observable to the naked eye. So nobody else is reporting, and certainly she doesn't look stressed in the video, not at all, except at one point where somebody says something to her and a look of alarm crosses over her face. But how on earth, after she was dead, were they able to see that she had cardiac arrhythmia? Isn't that something that you would have to be alive to see and to notice? I mean, they could say she died of heart failure or whatever if there were evidence in her organs themselves, but you can't see cardiac arrhythmia. And you most certainly couldn't see it after the person's dead. How could you tell that this dead person laying on your table had cardiac arrhythmia 48 hours earlier? You can't. And, why would the autopsy say that it was the result of stress? How do they know? I mean, seriously, how do they know? So, and this woman rightly goes on to say, you cannot diagnose death by cardiac arrhythmia. It is something that can only be measured in a live person, and there's no evidence of it after death. If someone had a medical history of cardiac arrhythmia, it could be a good guess, but it's a guess. And, people that do autopsies don't guess. They don't guess. If they're not sure, they'll put undetermined cause of death. They don't just guess, well, I don't know, what could have killed her? Oh, I'll put this down, that sounds good. Really. So, and therein lies the rub. The medical examiner's designation of death, cardiac arrhythmia due to stress, is in direct conflict with the known facts. Now, Loretta's brother, Louis P. Fuddy Jr., and you would think that he would know, says that his sister was healthy, that she had no heart problems, and that she was not a stressed or fearful person. And you can see her clearly in the video. She does not appear stressed. She's got her life jacket on, and she's bobbing in the ocean, and she doesn't look, they were close to shore. I mean, they reported that it happened way out, and the pictures they took made it seem like they were way out in the ocean. They weren't, because an elderly passenger was able to swim to the shore. They were 1/8 of a mile, 240 feet from the shore, very close, and the water was only 14 feet deep, and yet they said the craft was unrecoverable. Well, what kind of bullcrap is that? They're able to pull up, aircraft from ocean bottoms, but they're not able to retrieve a small aircraft at 14 feet? 14 feet? I mean, really, that's insane. So, and not only that, there were places there where it's evident that they were standing on the bottom of the, there were places that the bottom was a lot more closer to the, I guess, how do you say that? It was shallower than 14 feet because there were people standing up. So, anyway, let me go on with this. So she didn't have heart problems, and she wasn't a stressed or fearful person. He said that she was a very calm person and had to be given her job. His personal knowledge of his own sister directly controverts the medical examiner's conclusion. And yeah, he goes into the fact that, well, she had a very stressful job, and yet she was never stressed out. If she was able to handle the stress of that sort of a job, and she'd survived the crash, and they knew help was on the way, so why would she be so stressed? She's in a life jacket, right? I mean, it's 70-degree water. You're not going to die. And it's actually, I don't know if it's too shallow there for sharks or not, but I don't know. They all seem pretty blasé about it, if you ask me. They're just kind of bobbing away in the water. Anyway, passenger accounts of what transpired during the crash and after directly controverts the medical examiner's conclusion. Clyde Kowalski, the pilot, has said Fuddy seemed to be in fine condition while bobbing in the water after everyone left the airplane and waited for rescue crews to show up at the scene. Everyone was real quiet. We hit the water, and it was all about getting the belts off, he said, describing how everyone started putting on life jackets and remained on the plane until it seemed to start sinking. And that's actually not an accurate depiction, given the video. There wasn't panic or anything. It was very orderly. Now, that is very true. And of course it was orderly because they knew it was going to happen. Nobody seemed upset at all. I didn't even see anyone grabbing for their life jacket and putting it on before exiting. They, like, as soon as the plane was down, they didn't wait, they got off. So, bobbing in the water, Holstein noticed the pilot and 7 other passengers seemed fine. I didn't want to sit out there bobbing, so I figured I'd take a shot at going to the shoreline. He guesses the swim to the rugged shoreline took an hour and a half. Okay, that's not true, because someone had timed it, and they said even just an average swimmer or a beginning swimmer could have made it to the shore in 7 minutes. 7 minutes. It was not very far. And literally, this person, and I can't remember now where I read that, but they said, like, you could literally dog paddle to the shore in 7 minutes. It's not, the waves were not really, really high. It was not a tumultuous ocean, and the shore was very close. And it was shallow, closer to the shore. So it just would not have taken long for them to get to the shore. It most certainly did not take this guy an hour and a half. I can tell you that right now. He was surprised to hear later that one of the passengers, Hawaii Health Director Loretta Fuddy, had later died. Oh, I bet he was really surprised. She was doing fine out of the airplane, Holstein said. The video footage of the actual plane crash directly controverts the medical examiner's conclusion. Loretta Fuddy was not screaming or crying. No one was. The 2002 Cessna Grand Caravan's cabin started to flood after impact, but everyone remains calm and eerily quiet. And that's true. There was no talking, nothing. Nobody screamed. Nobody was like crying, or nobody was like, oh, like, not at all. Everybody was very calm, like it was almost too calm. As they leave the sinking craft. In the video, the passengers can be seen making their way out calmly. There is only one hearsay account that Fuddy needed to relax after the crash. Keith Yamamoto, who most certainly was in on this, purportedly told a Reverend Patrick Kalea that he had held Loretta's hand and tried to help her to relax, but at some point she let go of his hand and was unresponsive. Now, how does someone drown when you are holding their hand? Really? Said she just let go. Well, if I was out in the ocean and I was with somebody and we were both bobbing away in the water and I had hold of their hand and they let go of mine, I would immediately grab them. Right? Wouldn't you? What would you do? Just let them sink to the bottom? Oh, see you later. Of course not. And she wouldn't have sunk anyway because she had a life jacket on. So it doesn't make sense. Okay. The second cause of death release. 2 months after the Maui Police Department revealed Fuddy's cause of death, the Associated Press, AP, sent out a short article with details straight from their own copy of the autopsy report, which they obtained on March 10, 2014. Now, 4 months after her death, we learn this from newspaper accounts of the AP story. Autopsy report says Loretta Fuddy was markedly afraid after plane crash. How does a person doing an autopsy know that Fuddy was markedly afraid? Like, really? Details in the autopsy report of Hawaii's former health director who died after a plane's ocean landing revealed how traumatic the ordeal was for her. Wait a minute. Details in the autopsy report reveal how traumatic the ordeal was for her? Really? All right. The autopsy report obtained by the Associated Press on Monday said Loretta Fuddy was markedly afraid while waiting for help to arrive. Well, that's not what's shown on the video. She might have been afraid when they were trying to drown her. Well, they did drown her. Well, actually, I don't believe she died of drowning. I believe they injected her with something. After the small plane crashed off Molokai on December 11th. The report says 65-year-old Fuddy was a rudimentary swimmer who never swam in the ocean. Yeah, this is on the autopsy report. The autopsy report. How did they know, observing a woman on a slab who is dead, who's been dead for 48 hours, how did they know she was a rudimentary swimmer? How is that observable? I don't know. The autopsy said Fuddy's acute cardiac arrhythmia was due to hyperventilation. How the heck do you know a dead body was hyperventilating 48 hours earlier? Like, wow. Official autopsy results for late health director Loretta Fuddy reveals she was a poor swimmer and never swam in ocean waters. Yeah, right. A dead body's laying on a slab, been dead for 48 hours, and you look at it and say, that person, she was a poor swimmer. Well, it's pretty evident by her body that she never swam in the ocean. You really think that happened? According to the report, witnesses saw Fuddy exit the aircraft with her flotation device, and she was markedly afraid while waiting for rescue personnel to arrive. Not on the video I saw. She was pronounced dead after being brought to shore. This is in direct conflict with first-hand witness accounts reported at the time. Remember, the pilot and passenger, Holsteins, both said Fuddy was calm and was doing fine. No witnesses in any newspaper account of the crash ever said Fuddy was markedly afraid. So where did this come from? Oh, it came from the magical land of make-believe, my friends. The magical land of make-believe. The autopsy report says reported ocean conditions included relatively calm 5-foot waves that occasionally splashed over the face of the crash victims as they awaited rescue. She was markedly afraid. It was a traumatic ordeal. She was a poor swimmer. She never swam in the ocean. Water occasionally splashed over her face while waiting rescue. Ocean conditions included relatively calm 5-foot waves. This is an autopsy report? Does this sound like a systematic external and internal examination of a dead body to determine if any abnormalities are present and cause of death? Honestly, if I was reading that autopsy report, I would have been laughing because it is so ludicrous. Like, honestly, you know when Q says, these people are stupid? No, he says, these people are dumb. Yeah. Yeah. This is unreal. The AP did not share a copy of the report. Well, no, of course not, because they would have been laughed at. They would have been laughed at and ridiculed. Especially if there was a doctor that got a hold of that. They'd be like, say what? Really? It's unbelievable. Now, I know there's got to be at least some nurses listening, and you're probably thinking the same thing. Say what? So the AP did not share a copy of the report, which was said to be heavily redacted. It is important to note that attorney Orly Tates made a public records request for the autopsy report on December 18, 2013, and has never received a copy. Can't imagine why that would be. Why did the AP get a copy but not Tate's? And it is a public record subject to Hawaii's Unified Information Practices Act Statute 92F. I requested one myself. It is only released to people who will beat the drum that Loretta's death was caused by fear and hyperventilation. A final point. One headline announcing the Maui Police Department's release of autopsy details, January 13, 2014, said that Loretta's death had been ruled accidental. I guess she accidentally hyperventilated and accidentally went into cardiac arrhythmia. I guess she accidentally had never swam in the ocean and was accidentally a rudimentary swimmer. I guess she accidentally drowned. Maybe she was accidentally injected with something. Accidentally, of course. As of March 29, 2014, no one knows why the plane's engine failed. It's a mystery. The National Transportation Safety Board has yet to determine the cause of the crash. So how can the medical examiner or the Maui Police Department rule Fuddy's death accidental? It's a good question, isn't it? Closing. The medical examiner's autopsy report guesses at the cause of death for Loretta Fuddy. And sometimes, absent any clues from the body, that's all you can do. I would wager most medical examiners in such a case would go with manner of death undetermined. But what makes Dr. Harl's guess most disturbing is the fact that it is in direct conflict with eyewitness accounts of Loretta at the time of the crash and in direct conflict with her own brother's knowledge of her. She's clearly trying to make a square peg fit into a round hole in spite of the facts. Review all documentation I've supplied, see it with your own eyes, and then ask yourself 3 questions. Does this autopsy report, what little we've seen of it, sound like an autopsy report? Does the markedly afraid portrayal of Loretta Fuddy jive with the original eyewitness accounts in the video? No. Is the designation of death by cardiac arrhythmias due to fearful, uncalm, hyperventilating demeanor supported by the description that Louis Fuddy gives of his sister Loretta? The brother of State Health Director Loretta Fuddy said his sister had no heart problems or pre-existing conditions that would have contributed to her death following a December plane crash off Molokai. She was a healthy lady, Louis Fuddy said Monday. She handled stress every day as director of the State Department of Health. She solved problems under pressure. She was a very calm person. She wasn't an anxious person, he said. To be the head of the health department, you have to have some cool nerves. Well, that makes sense. So, I think that's it for this. Gave us some very, very good background information, and I think was very well written. And now we're going to see some other interesting things. Now this, okay, I'm going to read through this, and then I'm going to go to this link. So let me make this a little bit bigger for you teeny tiny phone people. Okay, Fuddy received $50,000 after the long-form birth certificate was released. So she miraculously received $50K out of nowhere after the release of the birth certificate. Now, I've also read, but cannot substantiate, that she received $5 million. She also had a house in Florida transferred to her as part of a $5 million deal. Now, that's what I've read. I've read it in several places, but I cannot find, direct evidence of that. So you can take that or you can leave it. I'm throwing it out there that I have read this in several places, but I can't corroborate it. So, but the fact that she did take the $50K, this is a bribe and it's illegal, but it's never been prosecuted. The president's personal attorney, Judith Corley, flew to Hawaii to pick up the original certified copies and carry them back to the White House, where she arrived around 5 p.m. on Tuesday, April 26, 2011. Fuddy receives 50,000 rather, right after forged long-form birth certificate is released. Then Fuddy mysteriously is the only death in a small plane water landing. And Satoru, now do you know who she is? Does that sound familiar? That is Obama's mother. Anne Satoru is Barack Obama's mother. Now, get this. Anne Satoru and Loretta Fuddy appear to have one very odd thing in common. Both have been linked to the Sabad cult, which originated in, of all places, Indonesia, and was founded by the Javanese Muslim Muhammad Subah. That may not be how you pronounce his name, Sabah. Not really sure, but not important overall. They are both members of that cult. That's interesting. I mean, that's just odd. The smallish cult appears to have had at least circa 2001, and according to this profile of sorts in the Honolulu Advertiser, 20,000 members worldwide. Note also that the World Sabad organization seems to have been based in, get this, of all cities, wait for it, Chicago. Who else? Let me see now. Who else is linked to Chicago? Now, who was that? Yeah. So, Indonesia, Chicago, Hawaii. 3 locales linked to Obama's life. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. Sabad was introduced to Hawaii in the 1960s. So, now to Anne Satoru. She was linked to Sabad by her biographer and New York Times reporter Janie Scott, Harvard 77, in the book A Singular Woman, The Untold Story of Barack Obama's Mother. So, I mean, that's pretty official. It was her biographer, and she was linked to Sabad, and by a New York Times reporter. So, I mean, I would say that that's pretty probably true, I would say. Loretta Fuddy was more than merely a follower of Sabad. She worked her way up the ranks and became chairwoman of Sabad USA, based in Seattle from 2006 to 2008, and was known to Sabad not merely as Loretta Fuddy, but as Deliana Loretta Fuddy. And apparently in this cult, you do change your name. So, not sure if that's how Barack ended up Barack. Don't know. Anne Satoru's close association with members of the Sabad cult is well documented. But first, note in passing that of all the persons that could have been installed as director of the State Department of Health in Hawaii, Fuddy, a leader of a small cult with roots in Indonesia and connections to Anne Satoru, Obama's mother, was appointed. Now, if you don't think that's a coincidence, then I've got some swampland that I'd like to sell you. Second, observe that Fuddy assumed the director position in Hawaii in January 2011, just a few months before the release of Obama's long-form birth certificate. She died of drowning, not cardiac arrhythmia, as stated in the coroner's report. I personally don't believe that either. I think that she drowned because she was injected with something. That's what I believe, or else, I don't know. But there's some really wonky stuff on that video when you slow it down. And I slowed it down to 0.25, and then I went frame by frame through it. And although there's a lot of stuff blanked out, which is another thing, why did they blank so much stuff out? What were they trying to hide? I mean, they show the victim's face, they weren't victims because nobody died except Fuddy, but they show everyone's face and everything. What are they blanking out? It seems to be that they're blanking out things that are coming up from the water, which are divers that were in the water previous to the plane crashing. Let's go on here. A month later, The cause of her death was released, cardiac arrhythmia. Now, a recent discovered report from a Maui police detective reveals that Loretta Fuddy's heart wasn't the problem after all. She drowned with her life jacket on. How does a healthy woman, now this, think about this. How does a healthy woman who was the only one to die, drowned in calm 70-degree water wearing a life jacket rated higher than what she would need, with an alert, awake person holding her hand, and the person not know she was drowning? How does that happen? So, let me go back up here to this link. And, okay, no, first I want to show you something, then I'm going to show you this link, because I think it will have more impact that way. Let me go to the bottom here. Now, look at this. Looky here. This is the guy that's on the airplane that just happens to have 2 GoPro cameras, and he has a little microphone that is not even hooked up to the cameras. So he's in communication with someone, and he's really calm, and there he is bobbing in the ocean taking selfies of himself, but you can't see his arm raised up like he's taking a selfie. So who's filming him? And why does he have a GoPro camera, 2 GoPro cameras actually? Why does he have them with him and is recording, just happens to be recording? He said, oh, I was recording a landing. Earlier I had been recording a takeoff. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's possible, but look, here's a coincidence. This person's also a registered sex offender. Ferdinand L. Puentes, registered sex offender. That's the guy that filmed. So, and he was charged with sexual assault. Not sure, but it's just interesting. I mean, somebody like that could be easily bribed, right? So let's go back up now and, let's listen to Mr. Puentes, who isn't the sharpest knife in the drawer. This is his... And look what he's wearing here. U.S. Marshal. Anyway. Hawaii air crash survivor shares story and photos. And this is one of the pictures he took of himself as he's bobbing. That could be a selfie because we can't see his arms. But he's bobbing. He seems very happy. Yeah. I like to take pictures of myself after a plane crash too. No, really. I mean, that's the best time. You just smile behind the crash plane there and just smile. There you are. Okay, well, he's a happy fellow anyway. I'm probably, he's happy over his bank account. Reported on SavvyStews.com and by Bobby Laurie on HuffPost first, before CNN, ABC, and all Hawaiian news outlets. We've all read the stories and seen the images of the passengers and crew on board U.S. Airways Flight 1549 that fateful day when the Airbus A320 ditched in the Hudson River after hitting a flock of birds. Now it appears again with a small passenger aircraft off the shores of Hawaii. Sadly, not everyone survived. Makani Kai Air Flight, flown by Cessna Grand Caravan to Honolulu from Kalapapa, Molokai, ditched into the ocean on December 11th, 2013. Loretta Fuddy was one of the passengers. Though her name might not sound familiar, you've heard about her. She's the Hawaiian health official who approved the release of President Obama's birth certificate. She was the only passenger that didn't survive, but I'm sure it's a coincidence. Ferdinand Puentes was one of the survivors. He had been working on Kalapapa and was flying back to Honolulu. For him, this was routine. He had taken this flight many times prior to December 11th. On that day, though, he returned he turned on his GoPro camera to film takeoff, having earlier filmed a landing. Instead, his camera captured the harrowing accident from start to finish. Yes, let me see here. He's working on Kalapapa, and this is routine for him. Does he always carry his GoPro with him? I'm just wondering. Anyway, oops. It's a little hyperactive here. Ferdinand has allowed us to publish his photographs along with his account of what happened on board. Now, you listen and tell me if you think or if you know of anybody that talks like this. Seriously, okay? Just listen and think about all the times you've heard survivor accounts of things, which is probably hundreds of times in your lifeline, in your lifetime. So, let me see. Here we go. Here's his story in his own words. We were taking off at about 2 minutes into the flight with a slight left turn and gradual climb to reach our destined altitude of 6,000 feet. There was a loud pop bang noise from our single engine plane. You can't hear that on the video. I didn't hear that on the video. Then silence befell us all. Really? Who talks like that? Then silence befell on us all with realization of what's about to happen. A little melodramatic there, guy. We're in shock. No, he didn't look to be in shock. They looked pretty, not from the video. The plane was still in flight and banking left. The pilot then steered the plane towards land and leveled the plane steady. There were no screams and no one panicked. That's true. It was surreal, as if a slow motion spell was on me as I switched my views from watching the pilot's effort to glide the plane to the passengers and then view of the ocean that is ascending closer through the viewpoint of the plane very quickly. Okay. It was surreal, as if a slow motion spell was on me, as I switched my views from watching the pilot's effort to glide the plane to the passengers and then view of the ocean that is ascending closer to the viewpoint of the plane very quickly. Oh, here's the view of the ocean approaching. It took about 30 seconds from an altitude, in my opinion, of approximately 1,000 to 1,500 feet to impact into the ocean. This is the window after the impact. I was fumbling, trying to get the life jacket out of the sealed bag and donning it. There were too many things to worry about that your heart and your soul can't keep up to match the pace of your own thinking at that moment. As I was ready to step out, I looked into the cabin of the plane one last time, if everyone is all right, and egressed the plane. All right. The look of shock has instilled them all. As I stepped out into the ocean, I noticed how strong the energy of the current and swells of the ocean is. One of the key factors that made me calm in the ocean is that I'm very comfortable within the ocean's caress. Dude. I am a spear fisherman since my youth, so I swam up to and held on to the wing of the plane. Okay. Yes. Notice before he stepped out, he wanted to turn around and make sure everybody was, out safely, which is certainly not evident on the film. The look of shock has instilled them all. Okay, well, if he's looking back to see who's left on the plane and saying that the look of shock, they all had a look of shock, well, he didn't go back to help anybody. He just jumped out. I don't know. The dude is really melodramatic. Hope he got paid well for that performance. So there he is, clinging to the, and here he is, here you are trying to extradite yourself from the plane, get your life jacket on, get out of the plane, hold on to something, but he still has time to film. Yeah, Don't forget that GoPro. Yep. So here's Ferdinand Puentes holding onto the wing after ditching. Yeah. As I wait at the end of the wing of the plane, I watched a pair of the passengers proceed towards me. One of them asked me to assist her with her life vest, so I did. As I helped her with the vest around her collar, I've noticed I was sinking. I haven't inflated my life vest, but he keeps filming. He's not real worried. I am desperately trying to stay afloat, but it is very difficult to do with steel-toe boots, heavy denim jeans, and long-sleeve work clothes. I couldn't continue to wrap the strap of the vest around as I was in my own predicament trying to get situated myself. I also didn't have mine on properly, but oh boy, he sure did have hold of that camera, could film himself. Now this is Fuddy right here. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. There she is. And here's another passenger, and this girl most definitely was in on it. And here's the other passengers over here, and you know, Loretta Fuddy turns around and she's got a look of surprise to realize that she's being filmed, because who the hell, sorry, forgive my French, who the hell films a plane crash? Like maybe by accident, or once you're all right, you might get your cell phone out and start, you know, whatever. But if your life is in danger yourself and you don't know whether you're going to survive, you're sure as heck not worried about your GoPro. I'm just saying. So, see, I got myself all worked up and I even swore. All of the passengers, including the pilot, had exited the plane. I pulled one of the cord to auto-inflate the first chamber of my vest so I could stay afloat. Realizing that I couldn't stay buoyant still, the pilot, who was floating with a seat cushion, handed his flotation device to me. After a shocking moment came to me as I've noticed how much blood was covering his face. He had given instructions to stay together and not hold on to the plane just to be safe so it doesn't sink with people holding on. Why the heck would the plane sink with people holding on? Do you think somebody's stupid enough to hold the plane all the way to the bottom? Now here's the pilot with blood. No visible cuts, but he's got blood. And I personally don't believe that's real. That's just me. Just me. But I don't. So let's go back here. The hero pilot who surrendered his own life vest to a passenger. Within a minute of releasing the plane, the current of the ocean had drifted us away from the crash site. We were about half a mile out from land. In my thought process, they weren't. They weren't even half a mile out. I told myself, I can make that swim, so I said I'm going to try and head towards the shore. Another person was about to do the same trek to shore. When we broke away from the group to make it to shore. I was constantly mumbling to myself that I swam farther than this before I can make it. Within 10 minutes or so since impact, there was a plane that came into view and made itself known to us. That was a defining moment in that time. That hope has befell upon us. There was an overwhelming joy within me that someone knew we were in danger and could call for a rescue. How much danger were you in if you had your 2 GoPros filming? Seriously, how much danger were you in? My attempt to swim to shore was very exhausting. My laces on one of my boots were becoming undone and were about to slip off. Well, why the heck didn't you drop your GoPro and take your boots off? Like, seriously, do I have to think for you? I wanted to take my clothing off down to the board shorts so I could swim better. But with the water being cold, it was 70 degrees, dude. 70 degrees. And the surge of the wave slamming onto the reef, I decided not to. Yeah, well, it would be hard to do that when you're hanging onto cameras. Yeah, I think that was the issue. Because let me tell you, if I was afraid of drowning and I had steel-toe boots on and a lot of clothes, I would slip down to my bra and underwear. Now, he wasn't probably wearing a bra, but who knows? He could have been. So anyway, I'm just saying, I dropped the camera and I'd get rid of the clothes because in my mind I'd be like, I'm going to survive this. Anyway, I didn't want to have hypothermia or tumbling on the sharp rocky shoreline. Oh gosh, no, heck. It'd be terrible to be tumbling on the rocks after being in a plane crash. That would be awful. And to die of hypothermia in 70-degree water, oh, that would be something. That would really be something. Just as I was resting by my lonesome, here comes a humpback whale. Okay, now this is the part that you're kidding me, dude. Like, dude, really. Just as I was resting by my lonesome, they really should have hired somebody that's a little more realistic. Here comes a humpback whale breaking the water near me to breathe about 50 feet or so. Wait a minute. Okay, where you were, exactly pinpointed. They've done the calculations. It was 14 feet deep. And now you're a lot closer to shore. So you're probably at 25, or you're probably at less than 14 feet. Maybe 8 feet, maybe 6 feet, okay? So how the heck does a humpback whale swim in that? I screamed loudly, mistakenly thinking I was going to be just like a seal being launched up from a great whale shark or something. But at that brief moment, as the whale peered at me with its eyes, I gazed back at his knowing. Hang on. I know you're on the edge of your seat. I lost it. Hang on. But at that brief moment, as the whale peered at me with its eye, I gazed back at his knowing that there is some type of intelligence and understanding it held, that it pierced my soul. I'm gonna cry. Oh, that's so beautiful. Oh, it's so beautiful. All right. It was ephemeral swim together as I settled from that whale experience. I just floated there for a while, thinking of all my children, family, and friends. I prayed that I wanted to hold them one last time. I just wanted to cry, thinking for the worst that was going to happen. Doubt has snuck into me. A long moment has passed. The plane has been constantly flying over us, still continue to assure us there is hope. Next came a helicopter hovering over the group, which was at that time appears to be about 2 miles away from where I am. Oh, look, he took a picture of the airplane. He couldn't take his steel-toe boots off, but he sure can get a shot of that airplane coming. Yeah. Yep. Okay. The plane that came into view had made itself known to the survivors. As both the plane and the helicopter flying over us, I continued again to swim to shore. I was about 50 yards away from the shore, but the energy of the wave hitting the rocky cliff created a backwash, which made it difficult to get to shore. On shore, there was a guy trying to direct me to a safe place to get on shore, to a place where the surf wasn't as rough. I attempted to swim in the direction he commanded, but the surge had broken my will. In my exhausted state, I noticed there was 2 more helicopters and the Coast Guard C-130 that were in the sky also. It made my hope and adrenaline start back up again. I watched the smaller helicopter with a cargo net-type basket and a rescue swimmer in it, plucking people out of the group that is far away from me. Then it had returned and veered to my location. I was in joy, but yet exhausted mentally and physically. I almost didn't have the strength to grab onto the rescue swimmer that guided me into the basket. When we were up dangling in the basket, it gave me a view to see the smoke signals that were the spot of the group. They were far, far away. Yeah, sure they were. As soon as I landed and gotten out of the basket, a paramedic came and guided me into the chair within the airport. I was shivering, and it hurts. It looks as if the whole community were there to help. I got covered in blankets immediately before I've taken a seat. I took off my clothes till my board shorts were left so I could become dry faster and heat up quicker also. Yes, because you must have been freezing cold in that 70-degree water. As I was being treated, I looked for the other survivors and asked if they're okay, but I didn't ask out loud. Okay. I asked with just a look and was answered and confirmed with their expression. We survived. The adrenaline in me starts to ease down. The pain and throbbing on my neck, shoulder, and back is coming on fast. Every shiver from being cold is hurting. I've complained about it earlier and came with a neck brace and a board to strap me down so I don't rotate my neck or spine, just to be safe. I was loaded into the helicopter headed to Honolulu. The ride was rough in the beginning. My neck, shoulders, and back was hurting from the vibrations of the helicopter. As the time went by, the vibration of it soon felt like a massage. So we arrived at the airport in Honolulu, waiting to be transferred to the ambulance and headed to Queen's Hospital. The vibrations felt like a massage. It's unimaginable what one would do in a situation like this because of its size. The particular aircraft is not required to have flight attendants on board. Flight attendants are trained in emergency procedures and would impart instructions before and during the evacuation. The pilots on this aircraft did a stellar job in getting this aircraft into the water as intact as possible, notifying the passengers of the location of their life vests and getting them evacuated from the aircraft. There weren't pilots on this aircraft. There was a pilot, and at no time do you ever hear him saying anything to the passengers. And yeah. So anyway, yeah. So, you know, I almost don't know what to say. Let's go on. I don't think we're going to get to the video in this because I've talked for so long. Why didn't you tell me to shut up? Let's go down. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a few stills from the video. Then if you want me to go through the video frame by frame, it doesn't take long because the video is not that long. But if you want me to do that in a subsequent video, say so in the comments below. Because I don't, this isn't, well, it is directly related to Q, but it's not Q. So I'm not sure how interested you all are in this. But if you are, I will do another video on this because there's lots of information that still I could still get into. So this someone did, I think one of the Anons did this. How amazing that the state health director who verified copies of Obama's birth certificate died in a plane crash today. All others lived. And that was Donald Trump's tweet. And then Q said, the truth has been in front of you the entire time. And it has. And this is the plane crash caught on tape. And this is Loretta Fuddy here. Oh, what's this? This is a diver coming up close to her because the divers were there within seconds of the plane crashing. Boy, they swim fast. Wow. Boy, they got that scuba gear on and everything real quick. And I think they were in the water before the plane crashed because they knew the plane was going to crash and they knew exactly where it was going to crash because the whole thing was planned. And then they killed her. And I like this. How does one person die in a water landing off the coast of Hawaii when all the other passengers survive without injury? The passenger, Loretta Fuddy, likely held the secret to the biggest fraud ever perpetrated on the United States of America. And indeed, she did. Now, this is interesting because the National Transportation Safety Board said the airplane landed within open ocean water. And this is the plane, or this is the picture they supply. However, there's just one thing wrong with this picture. It's not a picture of the actual crash because this makes it look like it's way out in the ocean. And it's not, as we shall see in a moment. Molokai, I think that's how you pronounce that, Makani Kai Air CEO Richard Schumann told Hawaii News now this morning that the pilot who flew the Cessna Caravan that crashed about a mile off of, it wasn't a mile, off of Kalapapa, maybe, Molokai yesterday afternoon indicated catastrophic engine failure. The National Transportation Safety Board said the aircraft appears to be unrecoverable at this time, but they will proceed with an investigation. Kind of hard to do an investigation if the aircraft is not recoverable. Are they not, does an aircraft of that size not have a black box? I don't know. I really don't know. NTSB, the airplane landed within open ocean water. No, it didn't. See this little dot here? Let me make it bigger. See this little dot here? That's where it landed. See how close to shore that is? Yeah. And someone had done an investigation, and these are the they measured it by putting the aircraft and, you know, copy it onto to the shore so that they would know how many feet. It was 240 feet. 240 feet out, not open ocean. So water depth was 14 feet. It crashed 1/8 of a mile from shore. One survivor, an older gentleman, swam to shore. It was 702 feet from the shore. My bad. Per Google Maps. NTSB said the plane could not be recovered, but why? Why? I know they've recovered planes that have been at greater depths than that. My gosh, you can dive 14 feet without even like oxygen. I can. Well, I used to anyway. Don't know if I still can, but I used to be able to. Okay. Now, this bag appeared out of nowhere. 32 seconds. It appears under the wing 32 seconds after impact. Where did it come from? It's a mystery. Now, this is the guy, Puentes, and look at this earpiece he has in. But in other shots, the earpiece isn't connected to anything. So who's he talking to? And here he is again, same thing. And notice this. Okay, this is a diver. It's been all blanked out. This is someone that's in the water, like under the water, coming up from the water. And yet it's been all blanked out. Now why? Why would they do that? Why would they not want us to see certain things? Because certain things, and this is very evidently a square put over this. Why? Why would they go to all that bother? And here, I don't know, hopefully you can see this. It's a very direct square right over here. Right here. Why? What are they hiding? Hiding something. What would they possibly have to blank out? And these are still shots taken from the video, and this is a very direct square right here. I mean, you can really see it. Really, really see it. And this chick here, this will become important. Hang on. In the video version anyway. And again, that same place is squared out. And oh, and over here too, there's something squared out. A big square. And this is squared out too. All this part, they've squared out. You can see the edges where they've done it. And I do have a degree in graphic design and new media. So, you know, I'm looking at this. It's evidently been tampered with. It's evidently been blanked out, and there's huge squares here. There's lines. I mean, you know, like here's a line right here, over. Here's a line, here, here, down to here. Here's a square here, and it goes up a little bit right there, comes over, down here. And at some points, there's even something in the sky that's blanked out. So now these, now some of this is water, some of it isn't. And some of it you think is water until you take the individual screenshots. But here, this is being blanked out again. Same thing. This is all blanked out. Over here is blanked out. And this, by the way, is the location where a diver comes up. And apparently there did exist this video before it was tampered with. And there are some still shots out there showing some things that you can't see on the video as it exists now because it's been so altered. So this is a diver coming up. Where'd the diver come from? This is seconds after impact. Now, I took this picture of the sky because there's something over here, and you can't really see it, but it's probably a lot more evident to me than it would be to you that there are places in the sky that are blanked out. Why? Well, why do they want to blank out stuff from the sky? It doesn't make sense. And this is blanked out. And so is this over here, although that there's a possibility of this being, you know, the camera trying to focus, but I don't know. It just looks very odd that it's not natural. And again, there's some places here that are blanked out. These were more for my perusal because now they've attempted to blank this out. Now, does that not look like a drone to you? It sure as heck looks like a drone to me. Now, yes, there is a possibility that it could be a water droplet. It could be, but why are they trying to disguise a water droplet? I'm just saying. Oh, and this is all blanked out too. Now, what's this? See, I really do believe that these divers were meant to stay below. And I think that they came above when there was some difficulty encountered in, you know, causing Miss Fuddy to pass on. What's in this? What's underwater here? This is Loretta Fuddy. Okay, right here. This woman says something to her and she gets a look of alarm. It's seen in the video. What is this red thing sticking up? We'll see this in her hand, and this could be her hand because she does have something in her hand that's red, and she points it towards Loretta Fuddy and then she drops it. It's seen in the video. I didn't put every single frame here because I would have been copying and pasting like till the cows come home. I don't even know if the cows are ever going to come home. So look at this. This has been blanked out. Excuse me. And I believe this is Fuddy here. And the other lady. This is our very photogenic person taking selfies of himself after the crash, because that's always important. Now, the picture that we saw just previously with her, this person saying something to Loretta Fuddy and her getting an alarmed look on her face, and then she turns around and she sees she's being filmed. So I think that this person told her what's about to happen. That's what I think. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but that's what I think, because there's clearly somebody in the water here. She says something to Loretta. Loretta, her mouth opens in like a, oh, and then she turns around and she sees she's being filmed. And here's the red thing in her hand, okay? It's hard to make this out. But this is her arm, okay? That's her watch. And that's the woman that had said something to Loretta Fuddy, okay? And this is her arm. It's taken under the water. Now, over here, and I know it's very hard to see, and especially because you're seeing it secondhand. You're not seeing it directly on, well, you are seeing it on my computer, but then, you know, you're on your phone or whatever, and it makes it harder to see. So, this is Loretta Fuddy's body, okay? This would be where her top starts. This is her back end, and this is her front, and her knees are right here. That's her knees, and her feet are going back. Okay, so she's got on, I guess, like pedal pushers, and she's wearing black and a little flowered top. And this person has this red thing that, to me, it's also like there's red around it, like as if it's blood or something. I don't know. But it happens so, whatever she does happens so quickly, because then you see her drop it. And I don't know if I got that frame or not. But the other weird thing about this is over here, this has been tampered with. This side of the video has been tampered with. And there have been little bits and pieces of something copied and pasted in. Like, this is a hand. This is very clearly a hand. Let me see if I can make it any bigger. It's a hand. There's another hand. There's a head that has been, and it looks like Loretta Fuddy's head, that has been cut out of a picture and stuck in there. Over here, same thing. There's a hand. There's very weird things in this picture. Very weird things. And that did not occur naturally. There's no way. That's been cut and pasted in there. Why? Why on earth? This looks almost like a skeleton. I just don't know. It's like, this is like supposed to be above the water. This is below the water. But someone has gone in and tampered with this. There's like a little blue square here. That it looks to me like Loretta Fuddy's head, like a picture of her that's been cut and pasted in. A hand. This is the same hand here. It looks like it's been cloned. Just weird stuff. Bizarre. So, let's go down here. Now here she is again. This is just the same picture. We're seeing her feet here, her little pedal pushers, her back end here, front end here. She's not a really tiny woman. So this, you know, takes up, and then on the video it looks like she has bare feet on, but I'm not sure here if her feet are bare or if she's got her shoes on. But this is definitely the woman that was beside her, and she's holding something in a fist. That is her watch. It looks like from the frame before it that she has raised her arm now, and you know, she's grabbing onto this. I hope I caught the next frame. I didn't, dang it, because there's another frame in the video where she opens her hand and it's dropped. So I don't know what that's all about, but there's a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of stuff in the video, but I know I have been talking your hind legs off, and this has become a much longer video than I intended it to be. So I'm gonna cut this here. If you want me to do a second video on this, then please let me know in the comments, because there's no sense in me wasting my time if you're not interested, you know, and because then I'd waste both of our times, and that's what good is that? So just let me know, and if there's anything else that you want me to look into, let me know. I may, you know, it may be something that I'm not interested in looking in, or I might think, well, yeah, I'd like to do that too. So you're free to make comments and suggestions. So anyway, that's it for tonight. And I hope you guys sleep well. I hope that we've got Q post tomorrow to deal with. If not, I just ask that you would sleep well and stay safe. See you soon.